Hello, second grade mathematicians. Welcome back to Number Corner. For Number Corner today, we will be solving more story problems around the world from our calendar markers. Here's what you will need. You will need your whiteboard, marker, and eraser. If you don't have your whiteboard, you can use a piece of paper and a pencil. Pause the video now to get what you need. We will be looking at 3 new calendar markers today. There is a story problem to go with each flag on the calendar markers. We will work to solve the problems from the last several days. Remember, I read the story problem 2 times. The second time I read the problem is when I would like you to write an equation to represent the problem on your whiteboard. Then we'll work to solve it. When we're done, we'll have a look at some of the patterns we're noticing on our calendar grid. Let's start with our first calendar marker. We are going to Antigua. Listen for the first read. 19 people went to Antigua and saw 190 Navy men and women in the harbor. How many people in all? When I read this story the second time, be thinking about an equation we could write to represent the problem. What does this problem want to know? 19 people went to Antigua and saw 190 Navy men and women in the harbor. How many people in all? Write your equation. Remember to use an empty box to show where the answer should be. Show a connection if your equation looked like this. We know that 19 people went to Antigua. We know that they saw 190 Navy men and women. What we don't know is how many people there were in all. Let's take a moment to solve this problem using the open number line. Draw your open number line. How would you add these 2 numbers together? Let's have a look at how we can solve this problem. We'll draw our open number line. It's a straight line, 2 arrows on the end. And we want to start at the bigger number of 190 to make it a little easier for us to add. Let's start at 190, and we want to add 19. Well, I know if I break 19 into my tens and ones, I have 10, 1 10, and 9 ones. Well, if I add 10 to 190, where do I land? If you were thinking I'll land on 200, good thinking. 90 plus 10 more, or 190 plus 10 more, equals 200. Now I need to add my 9 ones. 200 plus 9 more equals 209. 19 plus 190 tells us we have 209 people in Antigua. You may have solved this problem using a different strategy. You could have drawn a picture. Maybe you did some adding in your head. If you got to the right answer, that's good thinking. If not, and you added it in your head, I would write down a strategy to make sure you got the right answer. Let's move on to the next one. For this problem, we are in Trinidad and Tobago. Listen for the first read. 20 people went to Trinidad and Tobago and saw some people swimming in the Caribbean Sea. There were 220 people in all. How many people were swimming in the Caribbean Sea? I'll read this again. You're writing your equation, thinking about the parts that are missing and what the problem wants to know. Listen as I read. 20 people went to Trinidad and Tobago and saw some people swimming in the Caribbean Sea. There were 220 people in all. How many people were swimming in the Caribbean Sea? Show a connection if your equation looks like this. 20 people went to Trinidad and Tobago. They saw some people swimming in the Caribbean Sea. There were 220 people in all. How many people were swimming in the Caribbean Sea? Our missing part is one of our two add-ins. One of the two pieces we add together to get our sum of 220. How do you think we could find that missing piece? One way you might have been thinking of, one strategy we know pretty well, is using an open number line. I'm going to use an open number line to solve this problem, but first I want you to give it a try on your own. Let's try this together. I'm going to draw my open number line. And I'm really looking for the difference between 220 and 20. Well, I'm going to start by putting the number 220 at the end. Well, then I'm going to start by taking my 20 away. I know that 2 10s make 20. If I'm at 220 and I jump backwards by 10, well, I know that I'll end up at 210. I also know that if I jump back 10 more, I'll land on 200. So I know that 200 is my answer. 20 plus 200 equals 220. Now you may have thought about this problem in a different way too. Now for our last problem, we're going to do something a little bit different. I want you to show me in Seesaw how you can solve this problem on your own by using an open number line and writing your equation. I will read this problem to you 2 times. Then you will go into Seesaw and solve this problem on your own. Listen to the first read. Some people went to Tunisia and saw 210 people riding the red lizard train in the desert. There were 231 people in all. How many people went to Tunisia? When I read it this time, be thinking about your equation. Some people went to Tunisia and saw 210 people riding the red lizard train in the desert. There were 231 people in all. How many people went to Tunisia? Now remember, your job is to solve this problem in Seesaw and show your teacher how you did. Before you go to Seesaw, let's have a look at some of the patterns you've been noticing. Now, one pattern we've noticed in our story problem equations is that our missing part is going in a pattern. On the first day of the month, our missing part was the sum. On the second day, our missing part was the second part of our problem. And on the third day, well, it was the first part. Then our pattern starts over again on the fourth day to be the sum, then the second part again, then the first part. Then we start over, the sum, the second part, then the first part. That's a pattern. Another pattern we've noticed is that our columns are counting up as we go down. Our first column counts by ones. Our second column counts by tens. And you've started to notice that our third column is counting by 11. You may have noticed some other things too. Good work so far. Now you're off to Seesaw to solve your story problem on your own. Turn it in to show your teacher when you're done, and I'll see you next time for Number Corner.